Welcome back. So we've got a big question that we're going to want to answer. How do I test hypotheses in statistics? Well, to really get at what hypothesis testing is, I'd like to start with a familiar background piece for all of my students. Ever since grade school, you've probably got some exposure to what's called the scientific method. And what the scientific method is you see something going on in the wild, you make some observation, and you ask some question. Well, what's that all about, right? I water the plant, it gets bigger. Something like that. Is the water important? So you form a hypothesis. You say, yes, I think water is important. And then you give yourself more than just an explanation, you make a testable explanation. That's what a hypothesis is. It's not just an explanation, it's an explanation you can test. And so you say, well, I guess water matters. And the way you can test that is by having a plant where you do water it, another plant where you don't. Everything else is the same. So you make a prediction, you do a test, and you make a conclusion. And maybe your conclusion is conclusive, maybe it's not. And in either event, you revisit your hypothesis. Was it right? Was it wrong? And of course, to get away from just grade school scientific method and more into scientists' scientific method, the hypothesis is going to be more involved than water matters, right? You're going to have some threshold of mattering. And so you might retool that and then redo the experiment. And just to make sure it's repeatable, if nothing else. Well, in the wonderful world of statistics, we will do something very similar to that process. We're going to make some observation. And actually, at that point, you can just be shooting from the hip. You don't need sample data, right? At that point, you can just be looking out there and be like, I think we need this much, or I think the proportion of brown-eyed people is 65% in Laverne, something like that. You just make some claim based on what you see. You don't have to have hard and fast data yet. Just like before, you will make a hypothesis, but it's going to be a testable hypothesis. Now, in the world of statistics, since we are numbers based, we're going to decide on some numerical, statistical level of significance. Once you've done that, just like with the scientific method, you'll run some tests, you'll get your data, you'll find out if your hypothesis stands up or not. And then the one twist, the one extra pirouette on this great ballet is going to be how you return to your hypothesis. Right or wrong is not meaningful in statistics, not for hypothesis testing. For a hypothesis, you either are able to reject your hypothesis saying, oh yeah, I can see that wasn't right, or you cannot do that. You either reject your hypothesis, recognizing it was not good, or you cannot do that. At no point can you say your hypothesis is true. Hypothesis? At no point can you say that your hypothesis is true. Not in statistical hypothesis testing. That's something that you will see and hear from me time and again in this series. So let's go ahead and get that part out of the way. So first things first, how do we make a testable hypothesis? That's going to be our first concern. Once we do that, we'll look into testing it. We'll also decide on significance levels. I'm sorry, but that always happens first. Then we'll test it, and then we'll decide if our hypothesis was good or not. And that's going to be our plan going forward. So first things first, how do we form a testable hypothesis? And that's what's going to be in the next couple of videos. I will see you then.